Should your app be one thing or 50 things? That is the single biggest architecture decision you will ever make, and almost everyone gets it exactly backwards. On one side sits the monolith, your entire app running as one program. On the other side sit microservices, dozens of tiny programs, each doing one small job, all talking to each other over the network. The internet loves to tell you that microservices are the serious, grown-up, professional choice. The internet is quietly lying to you. So let me show you what these two things actually are, how they behave, what they truly cost you, and the boring answer that turns out to be right almost every single time. By the end of this, you'll be able to look at any project and know in about 30 seconds which one it actually needs, and just as importantly, which one it does not. Let's start with the monolith because it's the one everybody sneers at and almost nobody should be scared of. A monolith is simple to describe. All of your features live inside one codebase, and they run together as one process. Your users, your payments, your emails, your search, all one program, one deploy, one thing to run. When the payments code needs something from the user's code, it just calls a function. No network, no waiting, same memory, same process, instant. You build it, you ship it as a single unit, and it runs. That is genuinely the whole picture. A classic web app, the thing you'd build in a weekend, is a monolith. Almost every big company you can name started right here, and most of them stayed here far longer than they will ever admit. Now flip it completely around. Instead of one big program, you break the app into many small, independent services. One service only handles users, another only does payments, another only sends email, another only builds recommendations. Each one is its own little program, often with its own database, running on its own, deployed on its own, and sometimes even written in its own language. And because they are now separate programs, they can't simply call a function anymore. To get anything from each other, they send a message across the network and then wait for a reply. Picture it like this. The monolith is one solid block. Microservices are a whole constellation of little boxes, stitched together by a web of wires. That web is where all of the power lives, and also exactly where all of the pain lives. This is roughly how giants like Uber, Spotify, and Amazon are built today, and it works spectacularly well for them at their size with their armies of engineers. So what actually happens when a request comes in? In the monolith, the request lands and the work moves through your code as a chain of function calls, all inside one process. Load the user, check their cart, charge the card, send the receipt, bang, 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 done, all in memory in a couple of milliseconds. In the microservices version, that exact same request becomes a relay race. The front door calls the user service over the network. That calls the cart service. That calls the payment service. That calls the email service. A single click can quietly fan out into a dozen network hops across a dozen different machines. When it all works, it is genuinely beautiful. But when one runner drops the baton, you now get to figure out which one across a dozen services, usually at 3 in the morning, staring at a wall of logs. So why would anyone ever choose the harder path? Because at real scale, the monolith starts to hurt in very specific ways. One giant codebase means hundreds of engineers all stepping on the same code, waiting on the same slow build. One deploy means one tiny change forces you to reship the entire application. One process means you cannot scale the busy part without scaling absolutely everything alongside it. Microservices attack exactly those three pains, and it's worth being precise about them. Independent deploys, independent scaling, and independent teams. Those three phrases are the entire sales pitch. So let's take them one at a time because every one of them is genuinely real, and every single one of them comes with a hidden bill attached that nobody mentions up front. Take deployment for a second. In a monolith, shipping a one-line fix to the search box means rebuilding and redeploying the whole application. Payments, users, everything all at once. And if something breaks on the way out, the whole thing goes down together. With microservices, the search team ships the search service all by itself whenever they want, without asking a single other team for permission. 50 teams can deploy 50 times a day and never once block each other. For a company shipping constantly, that independence is genuinely powerful. But here is the catch nobody puts on the slide. Now you have 50 separate things to deploy, 50 things to version, 50 pipelines to babysit, and 50 different ways for those services to drift subtly out of sync with one another. Scaling is the other big win, and it is the easiest one to actually feel. Imagine your checkout gets absolutely slammed on launch day, while everything else stays quiet. In a monolith, your only option is to run more full copies of the entire app, just to give checkout a bit more muscle, which means paying to scale the search and the settings and the admin panel that nobody is even touching. With microservices, you scale only the payment service. 10 copies of the one part that is on fire, 1 copy of everything else. You pay for exactly what is hot and nothing more. For a company with wildly uneven, spiky traffic, that precision is worth a small fortune. For an app with a few thousand users, it is a beautiful solution to a problem you simply do not have yet. Then there's the people problem, and honestly this is the real reason big companies split. Amazon has a famous rule: a team should be small enough to feed with 2 pizzas. The idea is that each small team fully owns one service, end to end. They build it, they deploy it, and they carry the pager for it at night. No giant coordination meetings, just to ship one release. There's even a name for this: Conway's Law, the observation that your software ends up shaped like your org chart whether you like it or not. Microservices lean into that, letting your teams and your code finally line up. But notice what just happened there. The reason to split stopped being about technology and became about people. If you are a team of 3, you do not have a people problem. You have 3 people and you should go write one program. Splitting into services to feel professional when there's no team to own each one just gives 3 people 10 repositories to maintain instead of 1. Now for the part nobody warns you about: the operational tax. The moment your app becomes 50 programs on a network instead of 1 program in memory, an entire ocean of brand new problems appears out of nowhere. You have to package and ship every single service, usually with Docker. You need something to run, restart, and connect all of those containers, usually Kubernetes. You need a way for services to even find each other. You need to trace one request as it bounces across 10 services just to debug it. And you need to handle the network being slow or lying or just plain gone. None of that work makes your actual product one bit better. It is pure overhead, the rent you pay every month for the privilege of being distributed. A single small monolith needs almost none of it. This is the tax that quietly sinks small teams who split too early. And then things start to fail because the network always fails eventually. In a monolith, failure is brutally simple. It is either up or it is down. In microservices, you unlock a spooky new third state, partly working. Payments are totally fine, but recommendations are timing out, so half your page loads and the other half just spins forever. Now this can absolutely be a feature. If the review's service dies, the rest of the store keeps happily selling. That is a smaller blast radius, and it's a real advantage. But it can just as easily become a nightmare where one slow service quietly drags down 5 others in a chain reaction, and you spend the whole night hunting for which single domino fell first. You end up needing timeouts, retries, and fallbacks everywhere just to survive your own architecture. Let's put them side by side so the trade-off becomes impossible to miss. On deploys, the monolith ships as one single unit, while microservices ship completely independently. On scaling, the monolith scales as one whole, while microservices scale piece by tiny piece. On complexity, the monolith is simple to run, while microservices are a full distributed system with everything that scary phrase quietly implies. On team size, the monolith fits one team, while microservices fit many teams all working in parallel. On failure, a monolith is all or nothing, while microservices fail in parts, for better and for worse. And on when to reach for each, the monolith is for almost everyone starting out, while microservices are for large organizations with real scale and many independent teams. Read that list honestly, top to bottom, and most of you already know exactly which column you are standing in right now. But here's the part most people miss entirely. This is not actually a binary choice. There is a middle ground, and it is where most genuinely healthy codebases quietly live. It is called the modular monolith. You keep the whole thing as one deployable program, one thing to run, one thing to ship, but on the inside you draw hard, clean boundaries between the modules. Payments cannot reach into the guts of users. Every piece talks through a clear, defined seam, exactly the way it would over a network, just without the actual network in the middle slowing you down. You get almost all of the organization and discipline of microservices, with almost none of the operational tax. And the truly beautiful part is this: if one module genuinely needs to become its own separate service one day, you have already drawn the perfect line to cut along. So here's the honest advice, the exact one that gets you downvoted on the internet. You are not Netflix yet. Netflix runs on hundreds of microservices because Netflix has thousands of engineers and planet-scale traffic pouring in every second. You have neither of those things, and that is completely fine. And here is the one number that should just end the entire argument. In 2023, Amazon's own Prime Video team took one of their services off a fancy, distributed microservices-style setup and rebuilt it as a plain, boring monolith, and their running costs dropped by over 90%. Amazon, deliberately choosing the monolith and writing a blog post to brag about it. So start with a monolith. Split off a service only when the pain is real, specific, and staring you right in the face, not because a blog post made you feel like you were somehow falling behind. The teams that win are the ones brave enough to stay simple for as long as they possibly can, and to split only under real, measured pressure. A few traps that catch almost everyone on the way in. First, the distributed monolith, which is genuinely the worst of both worlds. That is when you split into separate services, but they are so tangled together that you still have to deploy them all at once, in lockstep. You paid the entire network tax and got precisely none of the independence you were promised. Second, premature splitting. Drawing service boundaries before you truly understand your own app just freezes your worst early guesses into rigid, expensive concrete walls that are painful to move. And third, always remember that the network is never free. That in-memory function call took nanoseconds. The very same call over the network can be 10,000 times slower, and it can also simply fail. Every single arrow between your little boxes is a brand new place for things to break, and at scale, they will. Let's bring it all together in 3 lines. 1. A monolith is your whole app as a single program, dead simple to build, ship, and run, and it is the right call far more often than the internet will ever admit to you. 2. Microservices split that app into many small programs that deploy and scale on their own, which is incredible for large teams and uneven scale. But you pay for every bit of it with serious, permanent operational complexity. 3. It is not a binary. Start with a monolith, keep it modular and clean on the inside, and only peel off a service when a real, specific pain actually demands it. Architecture is not about looking impressive to strangers on the internet. It is about matching the shape of your solution to the true size of your actual problem. If this finally made the trade-off click for you, you are going to love where this series goes next. Because Kubernetes, the thing that actually runs all of these little services, is exactly where we head next, and it builds directly on top of everything we just covered here. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you in the next one.